guys, it's Robin. It's 2017, and this year I want to maybe try doing some videos about books and books that I love and books that I've read. I've done a few book reviews in the past, and I really have enjoyed taking part in Presley and Act Out Games Book Club. So I'm going to start out talking about some of the books I read in 2016 that were awesome. According to Goodreads, which is like a Facebook for books, I read 57 books last year, and that's not counting a couple audiobooks that I re-listened to. So it's probably closer to 60, which comprise 23,481 pages. That's pretty cool. And like I said, a lot of those were listened to, so I don't know how many hours. The shortest book I read, this is so cool how they do this little chart, was 79 pages, Hogwarts, an incomplete and unreliable guide, which was really funny. And the longest book, that one was 79 pages. The longest one was 1,006 pages, was Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. The most popular was Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which I re-listened to earlier in the year. And it says 1,902 point something people have read that, according to Goodreads. And the least popular was a new book called Jedi Academy, A New Class, 576 pages. The one with the highest ranking was A Wise Man's Fear, which had 4.58 stars. So I thought that was really cool just to see. And then you can actually see all the books that you've read, which I think is just awesome and a fun way to look back on your year. Because reading is something I love to do. I listen to books every day driving to and from work. I read when I get home. I read on my Kindle at lunch. I read a lot. I love reading. I love books, and I always have. Last year, I did a reading challenge. It was on a website called Modern Mrs Darcy, and they had a 2016 reading challenge, which you can't see that. But I had a whole list of books, and there's a new one for this year, which I'm really excited about trying out that one as well. And it was a cool way to look at, just to pick different books to read. So I'm going to tell you which books I read to complete this challenge, which, I don't know, I think it was a fun idea. So the first on the list was a book published this year. And I read, my book in that category was Star Wars Bloodlines by Claudia Gray, which is one of my new favorite Star Wars books. It's about these two kids who grow up on the same homeworld, and they go to the Imperial Academy, and they fall in love, they become friends, they become enemies, and it's such a good story, and I love how it all occurs like in the background of the first, I think, of A New Hope. A lot of it does, and it's very cool. A book you can finish in a day was Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling. It was a screenplay, not a screenplay, a script for the production that they're doing over in London, and it was so much fun to go and buy it at midnight with my friends, and I read it in a day. I sat down and read the whole thing, and I enjoyed it. I mean, there were things I had issues with, but for the most part, I enjoyed that book. I thought it was pretty great. Always fun to have more Harry Potter in the world, I think. The third one was a book you've been meaning to read, and that was My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, which was just a beautiful story. I read all 4 books in the series, and I just thought it was a fascinating story about these women who grew up together in Naples. And there's a lot of Italian politics in this book, but it also just talks about class and the changing of history over time and women's roles. And I just thought it was a really fantastic story of friendship and women, and I haven't read anything like it, and it was just beautifully written. I'm sure it's even more beautiful in the original Italian. Recommended by a local librarian or booksellers, I picked Hidden Bodies by Carolyn Kepnes, and I also read You, which was the preceding book. There was an advertisement from Audible advertising it as like, you need to listen to this book. So I did. I listened to the 2, and they're read by, oh, what is his name? Santino. I can't remember it. But it was so great because he's an amazing narrator, and it's pretty much a story of this like guy who lives in Brooklyn who pretty much turns into a serial killer, and it's just really, really great, captivating stuff. And the guy, Santino, I can't think of his name. Santino Fontana, maybe? He is the voice of Hans in Frozen, and he's also in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And I had no idea that was all the same person until recently, and it was just, my mind was blown because I absolutely loved his narration. It was probably one of my favorite narrations of an audiobook all year. A book I should have read in high school, and I just finished this. It was one of the last books I finished this year, was The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton. And that is such a fun read. It's such a like celebration of words and puns and phrases, and I just thought it was fantastic. It was a book on my nightstand, so I read it gradually over the last couple months, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I probably should have read it when I was younger. If you're a young person, go check it out. A book chosen for you. I picked for this one Chupacabra by Roland Smith, which was one of Presley and Act Out Games book club choices, and I thought that was a pretty fun book to read about this, what would you call them, cryptozoologist, and it's this family that they go out and they, well, obviously there's a chupacabra in it. They find these mythical creatures, and there's all this drama about this evil guy who wants to capture them, and it's a cool series. This was actually like the third book in the series or so, but it was pretty easy to pick up with the characters and the dynamics and just read and enjoy the story. It was really fun. Published before you were born. That would have been Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. I never read that in school or college or anything, so I like to go back and read some of the classics, and guess what, guys? I really didn't like this one. I hate to say it, but it was okay. It was narrated, I think, by Kenneth Branagh, too, when I listened to it, which might be why I picked it. 'Cause sometimes a good narrator will help you get through some of these stories, but I don't know. Maybe it's just dated. I didn't care for it. I don't even remember what it was about, because it was just kind of like this weird travel through Africa that, I don't know. It felt very dated to me, that whole imperial era stuff. I don't know. I'm glad I never read it before, because I don't care. A book that you previously abandoned, and that was Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Maria Semple. It took me a couple tries to get into this book. I think I'd started last year, in 2015, and stopped. And then once I picked it up again this year and finally read it, it was one of my lunchtime books. It really got funny, and it's a very bizarre story about this woman who goes missing, and she's just very eccentric, and her family's trying to figure out what the heck happened, and it's told through all these different documents and people's points of view, and it's a good story. It's really cleverly written, I thought, and it's very bizarre and funny, and I enjoyed it. Owned but never read. I picked a book called Mysteries of the Cove, The Fires of Invention by J. Scott Savage, which I had picked up a couple years ago at BookCon and actually had it signed, and then it was another choice for Presley's book club, so I was glad I finally read it, because that was a really good story, and it's about these kids who live in this like futuristic, I don't know, world of ours, where yeah, it's just like this really closed off society, and everybody has jobs, and then these kids kind of do their own thing, and there's steampunk dragons in it, and that's all I will say. It is a very cool adventure. I think there's going to be more books in that series too, which I will definitely want to check out. A book that intimidates you. This is one I put off for a long time, and I'm glad I finally read it, and that is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. It is an amazing, amazing story. I also read the sequel, which is, what was the sequel called? A Wise Man's Fears? What an amazing book. My friend, actually Presley's dad, Brian at Act Out Games, had recommended it to me a while back, and it just looked like, and my cousin Ross actually was a big fan of this series too, and he was trying to get me read it. And what a story about Cove and all of its adventures, and it's just epic, epic storytelling. If you're into Game of Thrones, or you know, you're a bit older and you've read Harry Potter and you're looking for something more mature, or The Magicians, I'd say this is an amazing series. It's coming to, I think, television soon. Lin-Manuel Miranda is going to be one of the producers. What? Amazing. Such a great story. I'm so, so glad I read those books. And finally, a book I've already read. I re-listened to one of my favorite books in the world, which was 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which is another, just an epic saga of a family. And there's all this magical realism, so all this crazy, crazy stuff happens. You know, this Buendia family, they start with the founding of the village, and the one son becomes this amazing general, and all the different family members are just crazy people, and it's an amazing story, and I don't even know how to describe it, but it's one of my favorite books of all time. I read it back in high school, and I've read it many times since. This is the first time I listened to it, which I also thought was a lot of fun. I did notice that I left a book off of this challenge, which was a book that was banned at some point, and I bet a lot of the ones I just named have been banned. Harry Potter books have definitely been banned. Name of the Wind is probably banned. 100 Years of Solitude is probably banned. Read banned books. They're not all terrible for you. Sometimes their reasons they're banned is just silly. So banned books are awesome. I mean, The Fault in Our Stars has been banned. Come on. So yeah, I forgot that one on my list. Comment down below and let me know what some of your favorite books of 2016 were. What are you looking forward to reading in 2017? I can tell you, I've already read 2 volumes of Thor, Goddess of Thunder. And I just ordered the 3rd one. And I just started on The Princess Diarist as my audiobook. And I haven't decided which paper book I'm going to start reading. There are a couple books from last year I need to finish before maybe I start something new. So yeah, let me know what you're reading. And let me know if you want to see more videos about books. I love books. I love reading. And even Penny loves reading. No, sometimes she reads with me. But reading is a great way to have lots and lots of adventures just while you're sitting on your couch. Or you're driving on your car to work like I do. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And thanks for being awesome. Bye!